In this lesson, we will be discussing the concept of multiplying integers. At the end of this lesson, you will be able to answer two questions. First, how do I multiply integers? And secondly, how can I use my calculator when multiplying integers? There are some rules for multiplying integers, and some people have no problem memorizing these rules. The first rule says a positive number times a positive number equals a positive number. So something like a positive 3 times a positive 2 is going to equal a positive 6. The second rule says that a negative number times a negative number also equals a positive. For example, a negative 2 times a negative 5. If I look at the 2 times 5, I know that's 10, and because it equals a positive number, I know it's positive 10. The third rule says a positive number times a negative number is equal to a negative number. So if I take a positive 7 times a negative 2, my answer is going to be negative, and 7 times 2 is 14. Fourth rule is similar, except for the order is switched around. We have a negative times a positive equaling a negative number. So if I take a negative 4 times a positive 5, that equals a negative 20. Now, like I said before, if you're okay with memorizing rules, then this works for you. If you get confused when you have to add, subtract, multiply, and divide and remember all of the different kinds of rules, then I'm going to show you some different methods that you can use. So what does it really mean to multiply integers? I'm going to talk first about why multiplication works the way it does. Okay, and hopefully that will help describe or explain the process. So 2 times 3 means I have 2 sets of 3. So if I have one set of 3, if I do 2 times 3, that means I have 2 sets of 3. That means I have 6. So 2 times 3 is equal to 6. B says negative 2 times 3. Another way to think of the negative sign is opposite. So if it's opposite of 2 times 3, well, 2 times 3 is 6. So this means opposite of 2 times 3, which is 6. That's going to equal negative 6. And again, that also corresponds with our rule that says a negative times a positive equals a negative. The next example is 2 times negative 3. So if we think about this, we have 2 sets of 3 negatives. So if I have 3 negatives, and I have 2 sets of that, that means I have 6 negatives. So this is equal to negative 6. This also follows the rule that says a positive times a negative is equal to a negative. Now, if we think about negative 2 times negative 3 as the opposite of 2 times negative 3, okay, again, applying the other definition of a negative, that it can also be opposite, 2 times negative 3 was negative 6. So that's the opposite of negative 6, which is positive 6. And that also follows the rule where a negative times a negative is equal to a positive. Okay? Now, that's just background information as to why multiplying positives and negatives gives you the answer it does. I'm also going to show you a method that will help you. It'll give you a visual. And we're going to use this triangle. And the way this triangle works is it's set up to help you figure out what the sign of your answer is. For example, if we're going to multiply a negative 3 times 7, I'm going to take my negative 3, and I'm going to cross out the negative sign, doesn't matter which one, and I'm multiplying that by a positive 7. So I'm going to cross off my positive sign. So that means my answer has to be negative, and 3 times 7 is 21. Part B has 2 positive numbers multiplied together. when you're multiplying two positives, it doesn't really work to use the triangle because we don't have two positives in there. Okay, so you might just have to recognize that a positive times a positive doesn't involve any negatives. It's just like any multiplication problem you've ever done previously, and 5 times 2 is just going to be 10. Okay? I would like you to pause the video right now and see if you can use the triangle to answer questions C and D. And then I will show you the answers when you start the video again. Okay, so we have a negative 8 times a positive 2. If I cross off the negative for the 8 and the positive for the 2, my answer is going to be a negative 8 times 2 is 16. For D, I'm doing a negative 4 times a negative 6. So if I multiply a negative 4 times a negative 6, my answer is going to be positive 24. All right, let's take a look at how we can use our calculator to multiply integers. All right, so if we want to multiply two negative numbers together, again, we have to remember to use this negative key, this negative button down at the bottom. So if we're going to multiply negative 3 times a 4, we're going to type in negative 3 times 4. Okay, and then we hit enter to get our answer. We get negative 12. All right, if you see something like negative 8 times negative 5, okay, you have to remember again, you're using your negative key or negative button, not the minus sign. So you're going to do negative 8 times negative 5, and you're going to hit enter. Now, if you wanted to, you could put the two numbers in parentheses as they're shown. And your parentheses buttons are right here above the 8 and the 9. Okay, so if I wanted to use those, I could type in parentheses. Well, I don't think it's going to let me. Parentheses, negative 8, and my parentheses. And then start another one, multiply that by negative 5, also in parentheses, and I still will get an answer of 40. So your calculator will recognize multiplying either with a multiplication symbol or by using both numbers in parentheses. If you have any questions on multiplying integers, I can help you with that in class. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you.